Okay. Go ahead and call this meeting to order at 3:31. We have Commissioner De Santos in attendance, and I believe Commissioner Sacco and Chestnut are upstairs. We will go ahead and begin, and they can join us at a later time. First order of business is the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any amendments to the agenda, Commissioner?
I don't know if we can adopt no quorum.
It's a subcommittee, so quorum rules are not really applicable to subcommittees. We can
start the meeting, but I don't know if we can actually have an official.
Yeah, we can take action by acclamation. We just have to note that there were two commissioners in attendance. That's my understanding of the rules for subcommittees.
But you can't take any official action anyway, so I think we're right, so you can go forward.
Well, we can give direction.
Sure.
Okay, so glad we scored that. So what we'll do is we'll just do what we do at Audit and Finance when it's the mayor and the mayor pro tem. Without objection, Commissioner will just adopt the agenda.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we'll adopt the agenda. Approval of minutes. Any corrections, or can we just adopt that by acclamation?
Sure.
Okay. So this is our first time meeting since May. We had a couple meetings that need to get rescheduled because of travel and also recess. So we're going to circle back to our first discussion, item 211160. This was in regards to electric vehicles. The motion that the committee passed was to really get information back on the current goals and policies from the city as it relates to electric vehicles, to get a map of existing EV stations, and then of course to hear about budgetary concerns, potential government incentives for moving to electric vehicles, and sort of what are our future plans. So we do have the items in the backup, but who among staff would like to kick us off?
I've been nominated.
And you're all welcome to join. If you're more comfortable sitting in these chairs, you're welcome to join us. No pressure, of course.
Do you prefer me at the table or up here?
At your preference.
So Melissa McCready, Transportation. I don't know how I haven't been to one of your subcommittee meetings. I'm not sure how formal you want me to be. So the memo we sent May 31st talked about the current goals or policies of the city as it related to EVs, and we had attached the existing fleet policy as well as what had been adopted in the Perform GNV plan, the strategic plan for the city, under Goal 2, More Sustainable Community, to increase the use of electric vehicles in the city fleet based upon data and the return on investment. So that is the practice that's been in place now for a couple of years. We have been implementing electric vehicles in the city fleet, GRU fleet, where possible, based on the data and usage and operation need. We've implemented some hybrids as well. On the RTS side, we've gone after grants to provide us with some buses that are electric. We're participating in a national review of what that means and how they're getting used. We'll get our fourth bus. It just, is it out on the?
No, it's not.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
It's in service.
So we just got the fourth electric bus, and that is getting up to speed, if you will, to be out on the street. And the data we're getting from the electric buses is that the cost per fuel mile is actually more than gas, diesel. And as far as the city and GRU fleet, we have been able to implement a lot of hybrids. We're purchasing more hybrids with GPD vehicles in particular, because that is the use case that makes the most sense. And we also were able to, we're purchasing some for code enforcement as well. So we're getting some hybrids out there because of the type of use they get where they're idling frequently. So they'll idle in electric.
Gotcha.
And then the second was a map was provided as part of the backup, the link. And we also provided information about the number of charging stations throughout Alachua County. Some of this information was coordinated with the Department of Sustainable Development, had done some research regarding the types of EV charging stations. Also, we had from the Florida Department of Transportation in their 2021 report noted that throughout the entire state of Florida, there were 761,000 electric vehicles statewide. Budgetary concerns, the government incentives, and what is the future plan. So all of these were part of, those are all pieces of a bigger conversation that we've been having with GRU, and they're leading that conversation. Part of the challenge with any of this is that we need a transition plan, and that would require a consultant to help us develop that, and GRU would need to lead it because it is so integral. The charging station piece is an integral part of what that means for electrifying the fleet. Under the RTS side of the house, for the federal requirements for transit now, you have to have an electrification plan, a transition plan, and we have gone after funding for a grant for that, and we should be issuing that later this year to get a consultant on board for us to create the electrification, the transition to electrification of the fleet plan. We cannot go after grant funding for more electric buses until we have that plan. And I believe that was the gist of most of the information that was provided.
Yes, thank you. I particularly like the plugshare.com is the mapping website that sort of collects the information on the EV charging stations. So that's very useful for our citizens. Commissioner?
Yeah, so the RTS RFP is going out. Is it, and maybe it's fine if we have to have it done by a certain date, is it possible to expand that if we added some funds to it to include like a city-wide electrification plan, or?
They have to be two separate plans, and we're using federal funds for
Okay,
the, so there's a lot of rules that go with that, as you are familiar with, having heard that.
So one thing I think we should consider is, I don't think we'll get a budget increment in this year, but I think that we should ask staff to come back what it would cost to do a plan for a citywide electrification, and then for this city, or this committee to recommend an increment in next year's budget. I think that's really the next, we have to have a plan to figure out how we're going to transition and how we're going to get there and achieving our goals.
Yes. Thank you. So one thing that I wanted to ask was for the charging stations, does it denote which ones are accessible to the public, or if there are charging stations that are not accessible to the public?
The website ones are accessible to the public.
Okay, and do we make our charging stations accessible to the public as well?
The ones we have right here on the backside of City Hall.
Well, I think those ones are always charging, from what I can tell.
Well, those also aren't, they're only for fleet vehicles.
Okay.
That's how they're programmed, and they cannot be changed.
Okay. Cannot be.
And then RTS has charging for the buses.
Okay. Do we have any comments from the public?
Well, I just want to ask, have you seen any type of schedule for how long it'll take for the plans to be instituted?
We don't have a plan yet.
Yes, and how long will it take to develop one, is what I'm asking.
Well, we get funding for the RTS plan in the fall, and then we'll have to go through the whole RFP process. So we expect to have someone under contract early next year to start the planning process. And then I'm not sure how long that process will take.
Okay.
And as far as the city side, we don't have funding for that at the moment, so I couldn't even give you a timeline.
Right. The direction here would be that the city commission begin that process so that we can find funding in the next fiscal year to allow staff to begin to formulate that plan.
And if we were to get that funding, we wouldn't get it until October, and then based on staff capacity, we probably wouldn't be able to even start the process until March.
Till March of next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Wes, you want to talk?
Chair Areola, Commissioner Hayes Santos, thank you for your time. I'm really, really happy to see y'all doing this. It's something I've been advocating for years. Very exciting. Just wanted to mention that the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy has a great EV toolkit. And I know staff's got a lot on your hands right now. You got a lot going on. I recommend, I've been working with Dory Larson at SACE. They've got a lot of stuff that, like our model ordinances, things that could have you plug in place. And I think it'd be great for the commissioners and the staff to be taking a look at that. Online, easily available. It talks about a lot of the things that you're doing now, and that's exciting. I'm happy to see that. I'm really excited to see about public transit and buses, especially from an equity viewpoint. That is really where we need to be going for public transit. The question was just asked about whether or not city charging stations are available. I'd love to see in the long term that these are for city employees during the 9 to 5 slot, but they're open at night. One of the big things about charging and being equitable and how we fund it is that so many people who have rentals cannot put in charging stations. But if we have downtown charging, if we have night charging, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I am working with the League of Women Voters, Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, and several other groups here in town. We're going to have a EV demonstration day on November 19th. And I'm hoping to work, and I am working now with GRU, and we plan to have that demonstration down by the GRU parking lot. I would really like to have city participation from the city fleet, maybe a vehicle there. Not going to be driving, just, hey, this is what we're doing to promote EVs. These are the EVs we own. In my wildest dreams, we'd have an RTS bus there, or at least over at the Rosa Park station, if we could do that. I know, asking a lot, but I just wanted to get up and plug this plan, this toolkit, because it has things like transportation electrification plan. It has what other Florida municipalities are doing. It's a really great way to go. I'm also going to put a plug in through GRU. Gainesville is a member of the American Public Power Association. So the commissioners are able to sign up for a course called Electric Vehicle Fundamentals, as is any staff member, city staff. That's coming up on August 16th and 18th. And you know how to find me, but it's a great perk of being an APPA member. So I would encourage y'all, and you don't have to attend it on those days, you can attend the recordings. That's my stump speech. Thank you for bringing this up. I'd like to wrap it up with saying I'd love to have this brought before the UAB. Electrification plan, we've got to go forward with that. We've got to have a transition plan. And I think if the UAB was involved in what we need to do, we have surplus energy at times here in Gainesville. EVs fit a really special niche. They're environmentally responsible. They are revenue generating. They are the path that we're taking now, even without us getting involved. We either going to get out in front and lead the way, or we're going to get run over. So I'm really excited to see y'all get out in front. And in the long run, with load sharing, it might even be a power source, which is happening now in some areas of California. Vehicle to grid is an exciting thing, vehicle to load. So none of this can happen without city fleet, without RTS, and y'all folks are the ones who make it happen. I appreciate y'all bringing this up, and I'd like to take it to the UAB, and thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Chair,
Yes.
I just needed to update you. We did know that Commissioner Chestnut was going to be absent, but Commissioner Stockler just let us know that she was unable to make it.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Okay, so any other comments from the public? Okay, Commissioner?
Yeah, I'd like for us to, I guess, give direction by
Acclamation.
acclamation to ask staff to come back at the next meeting with, I guess, maybe it's 1 or 2 meetings depending on timelines, because I know they're busy. And where this committee budget agreement for spring, but it's up to you. But to have staff come back with what a budget increment would cost to have a citywide, to bring on do an RFP for a citywide transition plan. And then at that meeting, we can give kind of direction to, we decided to recommend that to the commission to add in the next budget.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, the request is to bring back to this committee what the increment would cost, a loose framework of pursuing an RFP, and then this committee at that time would then choose to recommend or not recommend the path forward to the city commission.
Yes, Chair, I think that's, that would kind of keep us moving forward. And then I think as part of the, I mean, I think as when the plans are being worked on and part of the kind of gathering feedback in terms of that, the UAB should definitely be a part of that, of how this is done. But I think, yeah, I think that would be a good path forward. Good path forward for us.
Okay, so, yeah, we will, I think that's a good way to do it, because that way the city commission can then consider the budget amendment. They can also consider referring this to the UAB, because the UAB is an advisory board to the city commission, not to this particular committee. So I think that's the appropriate action to take. Okay, so no motion, but the direction is to essentially have the budget increment, well, to come back with an estimate for what the cost would be to pursue a proposal for a citywide EV plan. And I'll just say, for one, I'm really looking forward to seeing the RTS electrification plan. Really looking forward to seeing that. And that will be in September, so that's my understanding.
We get the funding in September, and then we would most likely be issuing the RFP by start of next year.
Depends how soon we can execute it.
Part of the challenge is getting the grant award to commission, but then also getting it through a budget amendment, which probably wouldn't be on, and we don't have a schedule yet for when the next budget amendment is after September.
Yeah.
So it might not be on an amendment until January
Okay.
or the end of December.
Okay, gotcha. Do you have a question to that?
Yeah, what is the expected cost of that plan?
I believe it's $150,000.
Okay, so roughly, that's good to know. Okay.
I'm not sure, again, for a city fleet, plus we'll have to talk to GRU, and so we'll have to figure that out.
Yes. Okay, well, very well. Thank you all for that research and presentation. Seeing no further discussion, we will go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, 211161. This was the Sustainable Industrial Practice Incentive Plan. My understanding was that we had asked staff to bring back sort of additional knowledge on what was allowed in the state of Florida. Now, the direction was to come back with a brief update on facilities, current facilities, green building and renewable energies for the current buildings. Do you have anybody from Department of Sustainability, Sustainable Development?
Andrew is upstairs right now. He'll be here in a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know.
Want to jump to the next item?
Yeah, we can jump to the next item. No problem at all. We'll just sort of come back to that. But I think the next item also had to do with Andrew, because I believe it was to come back with information on the environmental impact in the industrial area pertaining to Porter's Quarters and South Main Street. And what are the ways that we can reduce the impacts of the industrial area on that area?
I think Dave has some.
Fantastic.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. I have some updates since our last meeting. So according to our current plan, that we have some approaches which can be directly tied to the proposed incentives. First of all is the mandate the city-owned construction must follow the Green Building Program per Chapter 6, Article 2. So that's already in place. And secondly, the density bonus system per Section 30-4.9, which talk about the energy rebates program through GRU. And then the rental housing permits also talk about the energy protection. So in a way, they can all be used for the proposed incentive plan. And the last time, we talked about the LEED certified project within the city. So according to USGBC, the U.S. Green Building Council, there are 96 LEED certified projects within the city, including a few in the county. Majority of the projects are located on UF campus. So the most recent one related to the city of Gainesville is the fire station by the main street, which is a silver level of LEED certified. And that's the updates I have since our last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I do remember us discussing briefly the LEED certifications. Now, is that, I understand the city signed up to become a LEED certified, but that was years ago. I think you have to reapply for that.
I thought every building goes through its own process.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, really, all I'd like to sort of give direction for is you know, if we're following that process, to sort of get more information on each new city building and whether or not it's LEED certified. Are we able to require that new construction in the city be LEED certified as well? Yeah.
So I would, being LEED certified is a very expensive process. That's my understanding of, I mean, there's the whole approval process, but also the construction methods, and I think one of the things that we have to balance is the cost versus kind of where that is. I think one of the things that I would be curious, I don't know if anybody here may know, is when do we make, how is currently as a city policy being set on, do we do a LEED building or do we not do a LEED building? I mean, building a bathroom in a park, we're probably not going to do a LEED certification. It costs more to do that than probably that. But I guess how are we picking that now? I don't know if you know, Mr. Mann, or not.
Mr. Chair, Phil Mann from City Manager's Office. So we have a requirement that we achieve some level of LEED certification, and I've done 2 buildings where we had the required LEED certification, which is Fire Station number 1 and the Public Works Administration Building. And the Public Works Administration Building was the first one I did where we had to use the LEED principles. And it is super hard to get, was it gold? I think the Public Works Administration Building is silver, and there's many factors that go into it, like reusing materials and that are on site. So we did as much as that as we could. It's going to depend from site to site as to exactly what level we're going to be able to achieve. But I think the general plan or the general policy of the city is to achieve some sort of LEED certification on all of our new construction. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Okay, well, I can live with that. Do we want to talk more about the industrial areas south of Maine? Because the last conversation we had was essentially, you know, these companies, these industrial companies, the ones that particularly deal with like air soot particulates and things that are really causing the negative health effects in the area. You know, there's been complaints filed before. There's been complaints that have been fulfilled. They've actually properly cleaned some of the areas, but it's sort of an ongoing problem. And really, the only solution that we sort of heard at the table was, you know, short of going into massive lawsuits with them, we have to incentivize them to find another location. And you know, I don't know if that's a recommendation we want to make from this committee to the city commission. I know Commissioner Ward has mentioned he wanted to have a discussion about the South Main zoning area. So I think there's an appetite on the commission to discuss it. I guess the question for us is, do we want to recommend changing the zoning of that area? Yeah.
I think we should. I don't know if right now with everything going on that's the best course of action. I think it might be good to discuss it at our next meeting and having a full plethora of commissioners.
Okay.
At that meeting. I think before we need to make sure that we have our ducks in a row.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if it did. I think that was person. Was there any other ways, or can we shut down a? I mean, I guess we can, then we get sued. But is there ways to kind of incentivize? I guess we can incentivize them to move, or if we say here's a property that you can go to and we'll give you it for free or things like that if you move there and leave the property.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. Is this,
This is the industrial area on South Main Street.
Yeah.
You know, like the cement plants
cement
are.
plants and things like
Yeah, cement
that?
plants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which,
so the issue is it's causing issues for the neighboring residential?
yeah, like dust and.
Have they done anything to address the private nuisances involved with it, or?
It-
As I recall, there's been some
Yeah,
investigation to determine that they've been within the lawful guidelines. It doesn't mean that it wouldn't result in a nuisance that neighbors could seek redress over, but it seems like they're properly, they're properly zoned for there, and they're operating within their lawful guidelines. It's just that it is a difficult situation to have them neighboring with residential.
Is the city able to file nuisance lawsuits or like say, hey, if we change the zoning or stuff like that, and then say, hey, you really are causing too much disruption in this area?
I'm not sure how the city would have standing to complain about, again, what is my understanding is otherwise lawful uses of the property.
Yeah.
I mean, there are noise issues, the regulations that we have in place. There are environmental controls that are, I think, established generally by the state and the county, which we can enforce. I think we generally work in conjunction with the county to enforce them and have in the past. But I think the issue, my understanding is that it's not providing a satisfactory result.
Precisely.
Um,
Yeah, that's the crux of the matter. The redress that the neighbors have sought is to contact commissioners. I mean, that's been their redress. The issue is they're operating within the letter of the law. They have had the EPA come down and conduct studies to find that they're within appropriate parameters. There's, at least from a public official's sake, when you have folks talking about their bad health, talking about the noise that gets made at 5:30 in the morning. This is a recurring issue over generations.
Well, the noise, there's regulation. So the noise is something, the noise is something that can be enforced. And there's environmental, there are structures that can be in place, be they either tree, shrubbery, or manufactured boundaries that might help buffer the noise issues. In terms of particulates in the air, again, that's what I think they are already regulated, and the question is whether that regulation is sufficient or not.
That is generally the question. And from my experience in speaking with the neighbors, it doesn't seem to be the case. So I was just interested in exploring other avenues.
No, I think they could certainly be encouraged to pursue a private cause of action. They would need to, because that's part of the problem too, is my understanding is right now, any sort of complaints they have, I wouldn't want to minimize them at all, but I'm not sure if they've documented any, is there a cluster of respiratory issues or things like that?
Well, that is, of course, a good answer from our council. I do appreciate that.
I'm not looking just to placate anyone. I think that it's a very real
I
problem.
mean, at the end of the day, you're correct. Everything has to be verified, and documentation is generally the best way to do that, not hearsay. So, Commissioner, I think we could probably talk about this for a little while, but it doesn't seem like there's, we're down 2 members right now. We'll just hunt on that and bring it back at a later date.
Yeah, I think I would be interested in, there is a dust that's going across, and I guess maybe if we could ask, because I assume the county EPA is probably the ones who did the investigation on that. So I guess I think maybe a request would be to have the county come and ask them to kind of give us an update on where they are and where they believe that they are falling within the laws or not, and kind of where they are. I think that would be a good update. I think they'll probably have better information than our staff, and they're the ones who are enforcing it, at least from an environmental angle. And then we can talk about zoning and stuff like that, I think, at the next meeting too.
Okay.
I can tell you, Commissioner, I know that our code enforcement department, our head of code enforcement, has worked in conjunction with them and has a great deal of information, because I've seen, it flared up a few months ago, and I think they got right on it trying to find a solution, and there wasn't one that was really satisfactory, I think, yet. But they have a lot of information as to efforts that have been made to monitor and regulate and try to address the problem. It's the results, I think, that are leaving people wanting.
So maybe have our code enforcement and county come and give a presentation on kind of where we're at.
Yeah, we back away.
I can pass that request along through codes too.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. I'd like for the city, I understand that, sometimes there's limitations to the legal actions that the municipalities can take, particularly when there's different jurisdictions. But I'd like for us to at least be informed on the issue, because this has been an ongoing issue for Porter's Quarters for a little while now. Okay, so we will go ahead and move on from that. Did we have anything to discuss for pedestrian and bicycle issues? I didn't see a motion that was made in the last meeting.
This was a new item, that was it.
Yeah. I just sort of wanted to get information back on, what is our sort of plan for increasing our bicycle infrastructure, our pedestrian safety and things like that. I mean, obviously, we put some money aside for Vision Zero in this year's budget, but I just want to get sort of a feel for what is the general plan for developing these infrastructures. Yeah.
We have our 5-year vision on the list. We have our 5-year Vision Zero plan. In my opinion, I don't think it's large enough or ambitious enough for us to do, but I think it's a good start and we're making good progress. I think it comes down to funding and getting that done quicker, and then starting, and then really kind of how do we do a city-wide when we're doing so we have the bicycle master plans coming back to it should be on the agenda for, what's it called, the MTPO on that, but I think we need to look at how we look at our whole city and try to make stages. Right now it's just a 10-block area, is that kind of, or I guess larger than that.
For the, yes.
Our Vision Zero plan, it's not a citywide plan, it's really a smaller area, correct?
I am not sure, Commissioner.
Okay. I think the focus is on like downtown, some portions of East Gainesville, some portions of University Park, Midtown.
So, because this was a new item added, why don't we ask for the next meeting for a discussion on the 5-year vision, and just sort of look into the details. I would imagine we'd probably make recommendations to the City Commission to find funding for it, and also to sort of get a look at what is the geographic area that it's encompassing.
Yeah, I think it's to, sorry. I think we have to start planning for the next iteration of that too. It does take years for these plans to come together. I don't want us to finish that and then have nothing there.
So, yeah, that's a good discussion. I think we probably have a really good discussion on that in September.
So I will say that on all of our new road projects, we implement Vision Zero principles on all of them regardless of what zone they're in. So any of our bike pedestrian projects, any of our road projects, all of that, we do the Vision Zero principles.
Yes, and I do recall that for any new road projects or any repaving or anything like that. I think the question is generally that's focusing on roadways. Roadways sort of is the driving force of that plan, but we're talking about specifically non-automotive infrastructure. Correct?
That and I think our looking through our public works policy on our roadway construction, I think we have protected bike lanes on roads that are 35 miles or higher, I think, if I remember correctly. But on roads that are under 35 miles an hour, we don't mandate protected bike lanes, if I remember from that. I think we should revisit that and look at how are the policies we have in our, we're following them doing, but are they really doing enough? I mean, the number of roads that are over 35 miles an hour that the city owns is a relatively small number. I think, even on roads that are 25 or 30 are not fun roads to ride on without protected bike lanes. So I guess I would like to have come back as kind of that, what are our current, when do we put in protected bike lanes on our roads? And kind of, yeah, I guess that's one thing that I would like to see is, and then we can discuss and see if we want to make changes to those, if we want to make them more stringent or not.
Okay, yeah, I think that's information we can get back. So the request from the committee is going to be for the next meeting for us to discuss the 5-year Vision Zero plan and sort of a review of the Vision Zero policies with a particular question to when do we put in the protected bike lanes. Okay, any public comment to this item? Going once, going twice? Okay. Very well. So that concludes our agenda for today. I want to thank everybody. I know it has been a few months since the last meeting, so I'm happy to see everybody came back. We have an item for general public comment. If there's anything on your mind. There's so much going on in the city. No, don't feel compelled. If you do not feel compelled, I certainly will not compel you. Any comment, Commissioner? Member comment?
No.
Okay. The next meeting date is September the 6th, and that is a Tuesday as well. Until then, we are adjourned. Thank you.